Okay, healthcare. Now, when discussing healthcare, I think at first, if servants could sit and not actually respond until they hear the entire statement. Okay? When we are not aware of the ever living gospel and we are living in fear of some death that doesn't exist, okay? And we have been brought up to be hypochondriacs and have much housing by proxy and to be consumers all of the time and to be brainwashed continually to worry about health and fitness and aging and medications that we can be sort of in a manic worry state and any sort of discussion about those topics and eliminating this sort of out of control madness healthcare system makes people sort of flip out like you're just gonna let us all die here without really having a discussion about what that means and what's being asked of people. Now, in terms of the fuel, when people have actual health conditions, okay, and a physician who is an actual doctor, okay, has a suggestion for you in terms of increasing your activity, changing your diet, not drinking alcohol, not smoking, reducing stress, not working, things like that, okay? In your mind, thinking, what is that? I mean, where's the drug? Where's the operation? Where's the treatment for that? Trying to sort of be realistic and do actual research on those topics and in your mind sort of ask yourself, when you visit doctors, are they your friends and your confidants? Is that sort of a people who will treat you in a certain way that the rest of society seems not to, where they listen to you and they are nice and they cater to you and they have a concern for you as if they are almost parents to you. An example, okay, is this bit with the fibromyalgia. Is that an actual medical condition? Okay. If it was, why is it treated with medication for depression? And one thing that can happen with narcissism, which is not an unusual thing here, or that people need to be sort of defensive about, is that rather than they have a depression or they have a behavior that they can change, they channel that stress into these pseudo medical conditions that don't exist. And what the problem with that is the treatments don't actually fix that. And they can actually harm you So that's one facet of it. Now, the other facet of it is having this sort of idea that people only get one life and that they are going to live to be 105 years old, and not really being realistic and facing our own aging process and our own preparation to go on to the next cycle of life, where we have 80-year-olds saying they're going to have cancer treatment, and for cancers that are, the prognosis is 18 months or 5 years with the treatment, when an 80-year-old could say to him or herself, okay, well, I've lived my life, and, I'm 80, and I can't do those sort of things that I used to do when I was young, so I guess I'm sort of prepared to go on to the next assignment, the next cycle of life, and be young again and healthy and fit and, get to do these things over again. Um, Now, the thing about the cancer is really kind of one of the big ones, that what is causing the cancer, okay? If you repeatedly had a strep throat infection, say over the course of 5 years, you had 3 to 4 strep throat infections, would you ever in your mind inquire, okay, well, is there a cause for that? That I can actually prevent that from happening rather than just keep medicating it. So, in terms of cancer, are there causes for that? And are those things that we can change as a people and stop avoiding that and keep asking for medical care, which much of it is actually harming people? Now, this thing about drugs coming from Mexico or Nicaragua or whatever, um, that is not where the drugs are coming from, okay? They're coming from the pharmacy. That's where the drugs are coming from. So when we want to have health care for everyone and we just give out free drugs, what has been the result of that? And I mentioned something earlier about the statins, if people looked into that. And was that actually causing people to have problems with their liver and their pancreas? And when you take drugs of any sort, I'm not just talking about opiates, if you're on some sort of a heart medication or some other medication for some pseudo mental illness, um, that has to be filtered through your body. And what is that doing to your liver? Like when you're on a medication, why are you going in and having blood work done every 6 months to every year to check your liver function? Okay? Um, so just giving out medication is not really just a thing where everyone has a body that is sick and needs these maintenance medications. Um, Thinking that people are extending their lifespan and that we've made all these advances in medication, um, how much of that is actually true? And how much of that is a quality of life? And how much of that is harming younger people, like babies and children and the youth? And should we care about that? And when we cycle back here, what's to become of us? And so that sort of goes into some of the things about the plastics and that type of thing. Um, if we wanted to keep having these medical treatments, because we're not ready to really kind of let go of that, um, should we agree, maybe, to move to an area where that's being given? And in that way, we can clear out areas of land that need to be planted, because we have a situation where we have so many servants that do not want to have a slavery system anymore. And we don't want to have a population here where people are starving because they can't farm, they live in a city, or they don't know how to do that, or we have a mass of people that are having cognitive problems and they're already ill or they're elderly and they can't really do that type of farming for themselves. So when we have a population and we're going to make America great again, and we're going to do better things for our children and for our future lives, can we make certain compromises? Can we be realistic about that? And if you don't agree with some of those ideas and suggestions, can you express some other ideas and suggestions? And can those ideas and suggestions be realistic? And not just a printer continues to print to you money, and people continue to give to you drugs, and people continue to give to you food, and people continue to give to you gasoline, and people continue to give to you products, because that's not realistic. Okay? So, if you're a realistic person, if you could think about what you think the solutions would be to some of these issues, and express that to us. And that sort of a dialogue, I think, is needed. Now, if you are wondering why people began shutting down hospitals in some of these rural areas, okay, um, do you know where your food supply comes from? Okay? Were you told that prisoners were farming food and making products? And that around the planet, servants were freeing themselves by having these uprisings, as they're called, and asking their government to just shut it down, that they don't want that anymore. And do you know in your mind that a military does not exist anymore, that is going to go around invading lands and forcing people to get those things for you? That was sort of going on for a long time, and that Almighty God put a stop to that. And things like that. Um, Health care. Um, I'm not sure that anyone has suggested that no one provide health care. In 2013, people were asked to not reopen the government. That could they, if someone needed actual health care, just provide the health care to them and not worry about payment. And that did not happen. And now we have a situation with more suffering going on. So hopefully, now that these years have passed, we may get a different result from people, that they would be willing to actually do jobs that they're created to do without payment. Um, I sort of suggested that people willingly go to an area off of the land that can be used to grow, and live out the rest of their cycle there. if they wanted those sort of things. They wanted to keep this sort of world going. And I find that to be a very fair compromise rather than just sitting where you are and driving around and driving an hour to medical care and making the problem worse with the fuel burning than and insisting that you need to have land when you're not using it to be self-sufficient. Um, Now, if there's some other suggestion for that, then express that to us. And if you could express that to us in a non just screaming your head off at people at town halls and things, there's got to be a way to let servants speak and express themselves without doing that. And many people have had psychological evaluations to find out how their cognition is. And um, if you're willing to do that, just to make sure that you're not really being sort of irrational. Um, I've done it myself. Um, I have no problem doing that again. But I'm also really not making a lot of demands of people. I've tried to really reduce what I do. I do not drive. I do not own a home. I do not actually ride in cars if I can avoid it. I try to walk when I need something. And if I had any available land, I would be planting a garden. I would be trying to sew or whatever. I don't really buy clothing. There's a place called Savers. I used to get clothing out of a donation bin. Just like little suggestions like that. Um, I don't use doctors. Last summer, I went through a series of, get the health care and go to the doctor and this and that, sort of as an observatory type of thing. And I do not take any medication. So, in terms of asking for things I'm not doing myself, that's not really going on. So, not that I'm trying to make it about myself, but when we ask for things and demand things, if we're thinking about what that entails on other people, what other people would have to do, like give up their morals basically and force people to work, or give up their care of their children to go and do these works for you, or make other people ill by transporting things around and using fuel to do that. Um, that will become more and more of an issue. So, having a little bit better, clear idea of other people's mindsets here and what's going on with the water supply and what's up with the weather and what's going on with the nuclear plants and other people have children and things. I mean, we don't want to leave people that are just all of a sudden stuck in the middle of the country on this acreage and they can't feed themselves or take care of themselves. So, I guess a sort of realism check and discussing really what this healthcare thing means. Um, do you want people to get off of the drugs? And who are those people? And how much of this people, everyone on the drugs, would affect even the lifestyle that you want to maintain for yourself? Is that realistic? And if people are committing suicide or they're so drugged up they're nodding off, are they really going to be able to be slaves for you? Um, that would be sort of my bit on that. And again, I really don't think I'm alone in this, but perhaps I am. I don't know. But we do have, from the report, 195 million people that are not working full time. okay? So there's clearly something going on. And the people that are still working and the elderly that are still sort of, on their retirement need to really ponder on that and think realistically. And if they're offered some sort of a housing in another area, that they should think about taking that so that they don't end up in a, you know, horrific situation for themselves. Okay? Thank you.